Hello everyone and welcome to Veterans in Crisis podcast. Today we have Phil Conn. Phil Conn is Director of Programmes for Oasis Community Housing, which is a Gateshead-based homeless charity. That's right, isn't it, Phil?
Yeah, well, our head office is in Gateshead. We've got services kind of across the northeast and in London, and we've just, last year started a bit of work in Grimsby.
In Grimsby, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know you because you do a lot of good work in Sunderland.
Mm-hmm.
You're sort of become good partners with Fix. Every time you get a veteran, you go to ring, and vice versa. If we say anything, I mean, you do a lot of good things at what's that church called?
Up at Oasis.
Yeah.
So we've got the drop-in centre up at Oasis, which is open, normally, under normal circumstances, open Monday to Friday, 9 till 2. It's like a day centre, like a drop-in service. So we've got like the shower and the laundry and that. We do tea and coffee and toast and cereal, but the main thing that we're trying to do is obviously deal with people's homelessness, and that's inevitably when we end up bringing VICs, when we get veterans through that need the support or accommodation or whatever that is. We'll know that basically we're like the middleman almost. We're not really experts in anything, but we know plenty of people that are. So it's about picking up the phone to find somebody who's more experienced.
I think that's the best way to work. I think a community-wide approach and trying not to be too sort of precious with your clients, because there's a charity I used to work for and they would never go to anybody else because they wanted to sort of kind of, that's my client, so we get money for that, and it was all about that instead of it being about what's best for the client. And what I found with working with yous and working with a lot of other services in Sunderland, all of us sticking together and doing that approach, it's much better for everyone.
Yeah, definitely, because I think we'll know a little bit about different things, because invariably you get to know your way around different situations and circumstances and issues and things like that. So I know a little bit about addiction, I know a little bit about mental health. I'm not an expert, I'm not a specialist. So it makes sense to pick up the phone to somebody that is. I think what we've got in the Basis project in Sunderland is a place where people feel happy to come, welcome, that when they walk through the door, they're greeted with somebody who treats them like they're special. I think we've got the space. What we need is to bring the people to them, rather than say, right, you've come here with 4 different things you want help with, so I'm going to send you to 4 different places. I don't think that works personally. I think it's a miracle if they ever turn up those 4 different places.
It's a miracle if they turn up to one of them.
Well, exactly. But when they do turn up, they'll often have to go through a whole different set of assessments and stuff. I think if they're comfortable here, why don't we just ask the workers or the staff or whoever to come here? So that's been quite an important part of what we've tried to do, really, is make the spaces welcoming for the services as much as for the people who need the help.
I think since yous have came into Sunderland, I think people have actually realised there is a charity in Sunderland that work with the homeless. Before yous come, even though I work for a homeless charity, I don't think many people knew there was an actual charity here. Work with homeless, because nothing seemed to be happening. Like you having that drop-in centre, it's like the epicenter, isn't it, for everyone to go to?
I think that's been the difference. I think it's having a space where people can go, and we're quite light touch on assessment. I mean, our assessments basically, it's formal in one sense because we're obviously collecting information, but our assessment's basically having a couple with somebody and just being interested. And obviously, if you can offer a practical solution to something, one of our organisation's values is worth. We believe that everybody has worth. Well, that gets eroded if you kind of get a shower or you're wearing scruffy clothes and things like that. So if you can give somebody the opportunity to get themselves washed or wash their clothes, you start to build on that worth a little bit more. So I think just offering a practical solution to people, it's a big thing. I get sick and tired of hearing like people described as being hard to reach. Well, I don't think they're hard to reach at all. We've got a building full of people. I just don't buy it. And I think if you call somebody hard to reach, it lets you off the hook. It makes it their problem. So if you're saying Johnny's hard to reach, well, it's Johnny's problem because he's not turning up for appointments. He's not doing what he's supposed to be doing.
One of the findings of the study that I've just done for Northumbria University has come out that exact thing, that people say such and such is hard to reach, where in fact it's the service that's hard to reach.
Yeah.
that's the thing, you know. It's not the person, it's the other way around. That's what we've came out. You know, there seems to be quite a lot of barriers put into people's ways. You know, if you must do this, if you don't come 3 times, then you're out. You know, and you've got to be at a specific time. And when you've got mental health problems, or you're homeless or drinking drugs, things is not as easy as when you've got a house. It's not as easy to remember to go to things. You might never phone.
Also, I think, you know, I'm not sure I'd want to go to a lot of the places. You know, if I go to somewhere and I tell my story and I spill the beans, I don't have to do that again and again and again.
Yeah.
I think that's damaging. I think that makes people feel worse. So, you know, the people that leave the first place and just go, well, I've been there, they haven't helped, what's the point?
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. One of the things that the clients always say is, why do I have to say my story over and over again?
Yeah.
So what we do, we sort of accompany them to places and then we'll say it, you know, so they don't have to say that. Because you shouldn't have to keep reliving it all the time.
No, definitely not. So
it's not healthy.
I'm a big advocate of, like, you know, it's almost cliche, but like a one-stop shop. If you can go to one place, you know, you turn up as you are, and then that service just goes, right, you've done the big thing, you've turned up, you've told us you need help, now it's our problem. You know, we're going to take that on for you. You know, we're going to, if your problem's a physical health issue, we'll get the physical health service in. So one of the things that we've done in our Gateshead service is build a clinic. So we've got like a sterile place where we can get a nurse in. You know, if somebody needs a wound dressing changing or something like that, or somebody needs a vaccination or they need a blood test or something, I don't have to send them to a GP appointment that they're probably going to miss and then probably going to get, you know, told off.
Yeah.
Eventually get barred for not turning up to appointments. It's costing the NHS money. You know, I just think that the more that we can bring services to the individual, the better it is for everybody. So you come with all your problems, you tell one story, and then you make it feel welcome.
Yeah, that's what the genius of this building, the ERV, is.
Yeah.
Everything happens in here, you know what I mean? It's been difficult with the lockdown, wanting to do everything remotely. And you know, I'm even missing human interaction, and I'm at work every day. So God knows what it's like if you've been stuck in for 12 weeks.
Yeah. Well, I think it just exacerbates everything, doesn't it? I think that's what it's done. I think for me, it's just magnified all of the problems that were already there. So if somebody was struggling with addiction, the struggle becomes harder. You know, and often services like yours and like ours have been a lifeline because it's a familiar spot. It's somewhere where they can go. You know, I think it was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do since I've been with this organisation, is shut the doors. You know, it feels countercultural almost. It's the opposite of what we're trying to do. We've always had that open door policy, so so to have to shut the doors, you know, we've had to think on our toes and stuff. But I think one of the things it's really sort of taught me is it's not about projects, it's about people. At the end of the day, it's about relationship, and you know, we've worked really hard just to keep in touch with people and, you know, track them down and get them phones and that sort of stuff. And it's not the same, but you know, I think at the end of it, I think a lot of people will turn around and go, do you know, over the last few months, I know who was there. I know who looked out for us. We've had a few people that, you know, when we've contacted them and they've just said, oh, I thought I'd been forgotten about.
Yeah.
You know, it's tragic, really.
Well, we've just invested in some notebook laptops.
Oh, yeah.
So our next sort of project, hopefully, is going to be virtual art lessons.
Right.
We're going to give the laptops to the clients. We'll give them their own art sort of package, everything they need, and then the artist will do the lesson virtually. See on like we are now on Zoom. You know, it should keep people busy. And what I'm hoping is soon it'll relax to where you can do some exercise outside.
Yeah.
And then we can have classes outside. You know, I've got a little bit of money put aside to pay an actual personal trainer.
Because that's been quite a big thing for the ERV, hasn't it? The exercise and the gym classes and things like that.
Exercise is the main thing, basically, because that's like our sort of social prescribing. People had stopped drinking because if you want to do something, you can't really drink the night before. You can't come here under the influence of drink or drugs because you just can't take part. It's not safe for anybody. So what I found is that into doing the stuff that they stop the drink and drugs, or at least cut down, which is, you know, I'm not telling anybody they've got to stop doing anything. But if they want a sort of a bit of a better life, it's better that they cut down on these kind of things.
Well, and they're driving it, aren't they? You know, it's them that's making the decision rather than somebody standing over them, giving them a list of things you can and can't do. If it becomes a bit more goal orientated, doesn't it, and a bit more positive.
And I mean, they all help each other as well. A great thing that we've got with the foundation of Light, on a Friday they do 2 sporting events every Friday, but they've made 2 teams. So them 2 teams have been the same teams all the way through.
Okay.
So that just sort of increases sort of the banter between them.
Yeah,
you know, they look forward to Friday, who's going to win, and such and such have got 6.
Element.
And it, you know, it brings that back from the military, and it is really, really good.
Yeah.
I've heard stories of them storming off the court and stuff like that. But
I'm sure, but it's in us all, isn't it? Really, you know, you find something, and I think this is the thing. You know, I just think, you know, we're all human, aren't we? You know, that it's not an us and them thing. You know, a lot of the characteristics and attributes that I see in the people we work with, I totally see in myself. You know, I've stormed off a football pitch a few times. You know, what makes that any different from anybody else?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
and it just gives the other team something to laugh about, man.
Yeah. Well, you laugh about it yourself, don't you, afterwards, when you feel like you've been a right wally and you spat your dummy out because somebody's nutmegged you or something.
There's a bin at the side for all the dummies. Have you got any idea of a time scale when you might be able to work with clients again? Then?
We're just trying to work it out now. I mean, we're itching to get. I mean, we've been working with people obviously throughout it. Really, I mean, we saw this coming a little bit. You know, we'd started like almost like recovery planning and that sort of thing that we put in place, like a list of people basically that because we get a lot of regulars. You know, people are on a bit of a journey with us. You know, there's quite a few people who'll come in and we'll deal with whatever the situation is, the housing situation or something, and then we don't see them again. But there's a big chunk of people that come in regularly. So we just made sure that we were going to be able to stay in contact with them. So we got them a phone if they didn't have one. So that sort of thing. But in terms of creating a space, you know, reopening that space, we have to, you know, try and do it. I mean, the benefit we've got in Sunderland is it's quite a big space. The hall's quite large. So in theory, we should be able to manage social distancing. There's a couple of pinch points. You know, we'll have to consider, you know, regular cleaning of the shower and the loos and that. And, you know, we wouldn't be able to do the cups of tea and coffee the same way as we do with like the self-serve and stuff because it's a bit of a bottleneck. So I think we have to kind of reimagine how we do the drop-in service. You know, the entry point, things like that, we probably need to consider. So, you know, I'm hoping to have a plan developed by the end of this week that gives us a bit of a timetable. I think the biggest challenge is that it's still a little bit grey. You know, the directives of the government and public health and stuff like that still looks a little bit loose. So we're trying to figure it out, and it's very reminiscent of coming into lockdown almost. In a strange way, I actually found lockdown quite helpful because you knew what you were working to, you knew what you couldn't do. I think before that we were just guessing. And I think we're back into a bit of a guessing phase. Well, would it be okay to do this? Do you think we can get away with doing that? Because obviously the safety of the people who use our service is the most important thing. And they're often a really vulnerable group anyway for health issues. So the last thing we want to do is making them more at risk. And then we've obviously got to protect the people we work with as well.
So the ERV is quite small in comparison to yours. It's high, obviously, because it's 4 levels. But each level is quite small, like so. We're not really sure. We're just discussing them before I started doing this, how we would do that. You know, we think maybe just have one person in at a time, and then give that say maybe an hour, but then give us half an hour to clean down. You know, all these things it's gonna work out. Well, I hope it's gonna work out. You know,
I think it will. You know, I think we'll just, you know, we'll just come up with a new way of doing stuff, and I think that's one of the things that organisations like ours are really good at. You know, we're not strict on the way we do things. You know, we can adapt. You know, you started the ERV out and out. Do you know what I mean?
Well, this is it.
We have to change it.
We have a saying in the army, probably the forces, it's improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Yeah.
So everything can be changed and done a different way. You know.
Yeah.
So I'm sure everything will be fine.
Have you found that the people that you're working with? I mean, I've found actually, and I've thought this for a long time, you know, that we talk about like independence and resilience is something that they need to have. but I actually think that they're a lot more resilient and independent than I am.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably the same with the people you're working with. You know, that adapt, improvise, and overcome. You know, it's ingrained, isn't it? That actually this has probably been less of a shock to them than it has been to me.
Yeah, well, bad things have been happening most of their life. So you've got to improvise all the time, exactly. You know, and change in different ways. And I mean, how the government sort of helped out by getting everyone off the streets and giving them hotels and stuff. Mm-hmm. At some stage, that money's going to stop, isn't it?
Yeah.
So and then what'll happen back to normal?
So well, they've just said they've put money aside for 6,000 homes for people. And I think they're earmarking those for people that are in hotels and temporary accommodation. I mean, I was anxious about this anyway, because I think that it's a good thing, that everyone in directive that came out, get everybody off the streets. I think what it's done is it's proved how easy it is. For years saying, rough sleeping's always going to have to be, there's nothing we can do about it, all that sort of stuff. I think it's just proved it's nonsense. I think where there's a will, there's a way. And obviously you wouldn't want a global pandemic to be the thing that sort of gives you the will, but whatever it is, we've demonstrated that we can do it. My concern's always been that when it does run out, are these people just going to get a note under the door saying you've got to check out by 12 o'clock tomorrow? Yeah. There's got to be a plan in place. And I think, we've been quite involved in that work across the areas that we've got to service, so in Gateshead and in Sunderland. And there's been a lot of people that have been moved out. So, when the time comes that the money does dry up, in theory, there shouldn't be 150 people in hotels across Gateshead and Sunderland. There should be a lot less. And there should be an action plan in place for all those people. So that's what we've been doing. But I think the other thing that it demonstrates is that housing isn't everything. Housing isn't the only solution to homelessness. You've got to have support.
Without a doubt, mate. Without a doubt. Getting somebody a house is an easy thing to do,
especially in the northeast.
Yeah, it's so easy. I mean, our record is 15 minutes from being street homeless to a flat viewer. So it just shows you how easy it can be done. But just putting somebody in somewhere and leaving them, there's no good there.
Well, no, if you just put somebody in a house and lob them a set of keys, 15 minutes would be your record getting them in. Dare say there'd be a record getting out pretty quick. People just don't want the hassle. No. They don't know how to deal with the responsibility of managing a home and that sort of stuff.
Utility bills, things like that. I mean, also the loneliness, isolation and lonely. If you've been on the street, people walk past you all the time. You engage in conversation. If you're stuck in a flat somewhere, miles from anywhere, and you don't know anyone, it's a slippery slope, isn't it?
It is. We've seen that with our Housing First work. We've got Housing First properties in across the northeast, and we use those to house people that nobody else will house. So people that wouldn't have it's broken down in a hostel, that haven't done well in shared accommodation because their behaviours impacted on other people. So we just think that, and it's not our model necessarily, but we just think that actually everybody deserves the right to their own home. So we'll put them in their own home, and actually that serves as a really good platform for dealing with people's mental health and their addictions and whatever else is going on. But we found that actually you deal with one problem in solving their homelessness, but you create another one because you've made them lonely and isolated. Mm-hmm. So when they were in shared accommodation, at least they weren't on their own. When they were rough sleeping, they might have been sleeping rough with 3, 4, 5 other people. So one of two things often happens. The leader start to sleep rough again after a little while. So they might have a couple of nights out a week or something like that, just because they're on their own and they want to get out and about, or they'll invite loads of people back to the property. Neither of which particularly work. So, I've become increasingly certain that the solution to homelessness isn't housing. The solution to homelessness is actually community.
Yeah, definitely.
People being connected with other people and other groups. It's how do you get people involved in fitness sessions, in whatever they're interested in, because that's the true sense of success, is when you feel like you're in part of a community. Mm-hmm. It stops homelessness breaking down, because you're right, it is dead easy to fix. It's also dead easy to watch it crumble if you don't do anything with it. If you don't provide support.
If people get involved with the community and they get out and about during the day, they're happy to get back to their little home, Yeah. But if they're in that home 24/7, it's not good. Like,
no.
Do you want to explain to the viewers what Basis Beds is? What you've got in Sunderland?
Yeah, so Basis Beds is the Housing First model. So, like I say, We're trying to work with people that are the furthest away from independent housing. So you get a lot of intensive support. So the people who work as support workers, they have very low case numbers, so they could devote an entire day or 2 days or whatever to one individual. So invariably, most of the people that we're working with are suffering with addiction and mental health problems, and have never, in most cases, have never run their own home. So we take as much of that responsibility from them. They have all the benefits of their own home, so they've got their own front door, and they've got a really nice furnished property that's ready for them to move into and make their own. But the crucial thing is that support, and the support's really intensive. So they're visited regularly, they're taken out and about, you know, and we try and do a really sort of positive slant to the support. So it's not focused on their addiction. You know, there's nobody standing over them saying you need to stop using, you need to stop drinking. It's all about what they want to do and who they want to be. You know, that journey towards whatever that is. It's a bit like how you described it. It's them driving it, so it becomes a lot more positive. So they can stay there for as long as they like, really. And one of our big aspirations is, once they don't need the support anymore, is we just transfer the tenancy to them, and then it's their home, and they always know where we are. But in theory, it's intense at first, but as they get well and as they start to thrive, they don't need the support as much. So at the point that they don't need the support at all, we just basically get out of the way, and then they've got a home for life. It's proved quite successful. It's an evolving model. We started off with just putting rough sleepers into flats as like a crash pad thing, just as a short stop, until we got them into support accommodation. But then we found that people didn't want to leave, because they were going from this really nice flat and this nice environment where they were doing quite well, and then it was becoming disruptive, and it was almost traumatizing them again by moving them on. So we just thought, well, why can't they just stop there, and then the home can become theirs? And you know, it's taught us a lot about our appetite for risk. You know, in most cases, in the early days, we just thought there's people that we wouldn't be able to house in this environment because it's not staffed. You know, there's no supervision or anything like that, so it'd be really risky. And we just thought, they'll all get, you know, robbed, and you know, they'll just take the mick, and you know, we'll have loads of people stopping there. But it was one of my colleagues actually sort of said, oh, you know, we're supposed to be an organisation that, you know, believes in worth and wants to work with the hardest to reach and stuff, and yet we're not housing these people. What's going on there? And to be fair, I felt a bit guilty, and I just thought, actually, you made a good point. And she was basically saying, you know, why can't one of my clients move into this property? And I was saying he's too high risk. And she was saying, well, too high risk for what? For a home? That seems unfair. And I thought, well, she makes a good point. So we just thought, well, what's the worst that could happen? And it seems like a really negative way to look at it, but we just basically planned back from that. So anything that happened that wasn't the worst thing that could happen, we thought we were okay. Mm-hmm. And basically, he was in a pretty bad spot when he moved in, but just, I mean, she put loads of support, and she made sure she was available every day. And just over time, you know, he was drinking less and less. He felt comfortable in his home. He felt safe in his home. And he just started to thrive. And, you know, that process from moving him in to sort of 2.5 years later, when he turns in at the drop-in service with his suit on, having just got a new job, you know, the journey between the first stage and the second stage, it was a long journey, but, you know, incredible to see him in his suit and that. And we were the first people he wanted to tell that he'd got a job.
It's amazing, isn't it?
So we've just repeated that process over and over and over again. So we've now got quite a few properties across Sunderland, South Tyneside, and Gateshead.
I think what people like is that you're prepared to spend time with them, like, prepared to spend time on them, you know what I mean? And not like you've got an hour and then you're shooting off, you know. And you've also, if you've got a number, you can ring somebody to talk to. Sometimes I just need a chat. 10-minute chat, that's it. You know,
I think, you know, the staff have to, and the staff are prepared to drop everything, you know, because the people that we're working with need that, you know. And like you say, it is sometimes and that lad, you know, the lad who we did this sort of almost like a prototype with, you know, we'd take turns visiting him every day, and I would often call in on my way into work, and sometimes he'd tell us to F off, and that was it for the day. Other times he'd chew me ear off for an hour and a half, you know. But just give him that flexibility and not writing him off as soon as he did tell you to F off. That was a big deal for him, because for years that's what had happened.
Well, that's what does happen.
As soon as he got aggressive, or as soon as he got stressed out, or something like that, or flung something, or that was it. He broke the rules, so he was out. So I think it is about time, and a lot of the things that we give people, the thing that they value the most is time.
Yeah, some of my clients have actually said that. What our service is different from others is they actually have time for you.
Yeah.
To speak, and then why should people be lonely?
Yeah.
Not just veterans, but why should anybody be lonely? It's a sad state of affairs, isn't it? Really.
Mm-hmm. It is, but I think that one of the things we've seen, out of the benefit out of this sort of lockdown and the pandemic and stuff, is that people have started to look out for each other a little bit more. And I hope that's a legacy of this. That we start to consider the people that are on their own, because we know that immediately you start to think about your neighbour down the street who you knew lived on their own and kind of do a bit shopping for you, or just knocking on, checking they're all right and stuff like that. So there needs to be a lot more of that, and I'd like to see a lot of the people that we're working with maybe welcomed into that environment a lot more. And I think people's compassion's been peaked a little bit. I think that's a good thing.
Well, we ended up helping people who are not veterans, just people from the community, because the community always help us. So when this has all happened, it doesn't matter if you're a veteran or not. If you needed a food parcel, or you needed some shopping, or you needed something doing, now we've just done it, because that's what communities are about. I think we're lucky. I mean, I know you work in South Tyneside and Gateshead as well, but everything I do is geared towards the people of Sunderland, and that's I love Sunderland. I love everything about it, and the community spirit's brilliant.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And I'd say the same about Sunderland. I live in Sunderland as well. I came across to work for the organisation about 10 years ago and set up the project in Gateshead. But from the early success of Gateshead, I knew for a long time this is what Sunderland needs. That this would work well in Sunderland. And I mean, the community spirit since we're set up in Sunderland has been unbelievable. I'd never seen anything like it. It's totally different from even Gateshead, where I think initially there was a bit of suspicion about what we were trying to do. It was easier setting up in Sunderland, if I'm honest, because we had a bit of a reputation in Gateshead. But honestly, the amount of people that would just turn up at the door and say, I've got a bag of clothes that I don't need anymore. There's a woman who just every now and again just drops in with 20 quid in an envelope. And there's loads of people doing stuff like that. We're inundated with people wanting to volunteer. Loads of people want to get involved in our Christmas dinner. Finding out ways to help and stuff. It's incredible, really. And I think it's a massive credit to Sunderland that's the spirit of the community, really. You every now and again you'll see something negative about the people that we work with, that people are sort of perpetuating and stuff. But that's the exception, not the rule, in my opinion. I think by and large, people want to see their city thrive, and they want to see everybody in the city thrive, not just the businesses and the council. They want to see everybody in the city do well.
Well, I totally agree with you, and I think it's brilliant. I really, really think it's brilliant. What happens in Sunderland is just outstanding. That's what I think. Well, just before we finish off, I just want to mention your haircut.
Oh yeah,
because I like to shave mine off as well. And I tell you, there was a total misunderstanding. I asked my daughter to do it, and it's grew now. But I said it was a number 5, and she did the first bit, and then realised it was a number 1. So, and bizarrely, I haven't had a skinhead before, even though I spent 5 years in the army.
Really?
I always had a cut with scissors and shaved at the size, but I'm used to it now. Extra 10 minutes in bed.
Well, exactly. It's low maintenance, isn't it?
Right. I tell you what though, the first couple of days, every time I went past the mirror, I got a proper shock. or if I went up to somebody and they were shocked, and I was thinking, what's the matter? Because you forget, don't you?
You do, yeah. No, mine came off a while ago. I've always had a set of clippers. I think a few years ago I used to always shave my head. So it was getting a bit out of hand, and I've got quite a big grey patch I like to keep on top of.
Just for men.
It's starting to come through. I know. I'm not sure I'm not being enough for that.
Just get a hat.
It's shocking.
Right, Amy, thank you very much for taking part. Obviously, we've spoke before about when this is finished to do a one in the new studio, because one of the good things is coming out of this is we've invested in getting the studio a bit better for the podcast. So we'll have more cameras, more guests. Like instead of just 2 people, we'll have maybe 4, 3, and hopefully it'll be live as well. I don't know if you want to come on a live one, like in case I swear.
You've done well, Jay.
All right, thank you very much, Phil. Cheers, Bob.
It's always nice to catch up. Take it easy.
Cheers, man. Thanks.
Sure.